Hey, hello everyone. I hope you can all
Hi.
hear and see us okay. We've got a great group of students who have joined us so far, and I'm sure we'll have a couple more log in. See, yeah, students coming from all over. So welcome to another St. Mary's University webinar. This series is based off of the stories of our SMU alumni, so we're very happy to have a special guest here with us today. Today we're going to give you a little bit reminder of what St. Mary's is all about, but mostly speak about our guests' experience and student life, and hopefully answer any questions that you have. We know it's been a very different few months trying to get ready for your education and make those decisions on whether you're going to take online classes or perhaps defer, as a couple students have as well. So we're happy to answer those questions as well. I don't know if Lindsay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning from Halifax. It's a sunny, hot day here today. First, before I introduce myself, it would be awesome if those of you who are joining us could maybe just write in the question box, let us know where you're coming from, or where you're tuning in from, I should say, where you're tuning in from, and then, we get to know you a little bit better as well. So as Jenny mentioned, my name is Lindsay Benoit. I am an international recruitment specialist at St. Mary's, and I work primarily with students who are coming from South Asia. So I'm really excited to chat with all of you today. I myself am also a St. Mary's alumni. I know that there are, all three of us today are SMU alums, so it's kind of great to have that that connection between the three of us. So I studied Bachelor of Arts, I majored in psychology, and I had a really great experience at St. Mary's, as I'm sure you'll hear from Jenny and Siobhan later as well. So I'll pass it over to you, Jenny, again.
Okay, excellent. So before we get into the student stories, we're just going to, like I mentioned, remind you a little bit about St. Mary's University. So as I hope you remember, we are located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, on the east coast of Canada. It's a beautiful province and a beautiful city. Halifax is a pretty special place. It's Nova Scotia is kind of considered the educational capital in Canada because there's so many universities in this one location. It's highly educated. There's a lot of opportunities for our students in the region. It's also fairly easy to get to, depending on where you're flying from. I spent a lot of time in throughout Africa and the Middle East, and so if you're coming from there, you might cut through Europe, and then it's usually about a 5 to 6 hour flight, depending on where you're coming from, into Halifax. Or some students will fly into Toronto or Montreal first and then jump over to our province, Nova Scotia. I know Lindsay really loves this shot of Halifax. You can see the beautiful Halifax Harbor. We are a city of about 400,000 people, and as mentioned, it really is a university city. So our campus is just off in the far right corner of this image. And so it's really nice to know that when you want to get downtown and explore the city and meet up with friends, perhaps on the waterfront, it only takes maybe 15, 20 minutes to walk down there to really enjoy yourself. There's always something happening in Halifax, whether it's a festival or if you just want to go get an ice cream on the boardwalk, which is something we really love to do, perhaps check out one of the markets. It really is the kind of place that you're going to get to know. I spent a lot of time in some impressive cities like London and Dubai, and they're incredible places, but it's hard to get to know the whole city. Whereas in Halifax, you're going to get to know the core of the city, the heart of it, and it's very quickly going to become your second home. We are, as mentioned, about a 15, 20-minute walk from here. We talk a lot about that because it is a very walkable city. It's very easy to get around, but you can also bike, you can take a ferry, you can take a bus or taxi. There's lots of other options for transportation as well. Some students get a little worried about the weather in Nova Scotia, so I'm sure we'll get Siobhan's opinion on that in just a minute. But as you can see in this image, this was clearly taken in the summertime, but it's not like this 24/7 or 12 months a year, but we do have beautiful summers as well. So St. Mary's University is one of the oldest universities in Canada. We were established in 1802. So we are one of the founding institutions of the country. We are home usually to around 7,000 students, typically with just under 1,000 students living on campus. Of course, that will be different this coming year. We are missing seeing our students on campus, definitely. Lindsay and I were there just yesterday to pick up some things and do a bit of work, and it definitely didn't feel quite the same seeing all of our favorite students running around, but we are looking forward to seeing you hopefully pretty soon, perhaps even in January. So you can see from this image that we really are located in just one city block. It's something that we really love about our campus. The buildings are all interconnected, so you really get that feeling of, you know, coziness, home away from home. I love personally the fact that you could jump out of bed if you lived in Rice Residence, run through to Loyola, get a bite to eat in the cafeteria, maybe go up to the observatory for a class, drop over to visit one of your professors in the Sobey School of Business, come by, visit Lindsay and I in our offices, then maybe go into the science building, the library, or Burke building, and you can do all of that without going outside once. So again, if you're worried about cooler weather, it's something you don't really have to be concerned about too much, because it can keep you nice and cozy and warm and dry inside, even on a wet day. St. Mary's University is known for a few things. A couple things we want to remind you of is the fact that we think it's really important for students to get out and use their degree even before they graduate. So we are very proud to speak about experiential learning, which means that students are getting out to really try out their degree. Perhaps it could be research opportunities with your professor. It could be field work, maybe an archaeological dig. It might be a course that's getting you out to do research and interact with the community. Maybe it's a society and you are out with Enactus, one of our mostly commerce societies, but you don't have to be a business student, and you're pitching ideas and competing against other students. And there's a lot that can get you out really using your degree. And those are some examples we'll speak to throughout the presentation, but it is something we're very proud to offer at the university. St. Mary's is also known for being one of the most internationalized schools in Canada. So we welcome students from about 115 countries this past year, and about 1/3 of our students are coming from around the world. So I'm sure, as you can imagine, that really makes for obviously a diverse community, and it's something that I really valued, especially in my classroom experiences, in discussions, if you're talking about global politics, but just having friends from around the world, I think, is incredibly important. So that's just a little brief overview and reminder as to why perhaps you chose St. Mary's or why you're considering St. Mary's. I know we have accepted and registered students here today, and we have a couple students who are new to the idea of St. Mary's, so we have a diverse group here. But we wanted to give you a couple of reminders of who we are as a university.
So before we get to our guest of the hour, Siobhan, I do want to remind those of you that are tuning in today that this is really an interactive session for you to learn more about what it means to be a St. Mary's alumni. So when you've graduated, and you know what it means to really be a part of this community. So I really do invite all of you to ask your questions in the question box for Siobhan about his experience at St. Mary's. You know, if he was involved in clubs and societies or working on campus, or what he's doing now. So please ask those questions. I know that we're going to get to him in just a few minutes. But before we do that, if people want to ask their questions, that would be fabulous. And I do want to touch on a couple initiatives that we are launching at St. Mary's due to COVID-19. So I know that this is, as Jenny mentioned, a very odd year for everybody. So if you were not previously aware, our first semester of classes is going to be fully virtual. So our classes are going to be taking place online. Now, I know that when COVID-19 kind of began after Christmas in January, February, March, depending on where in the world you are, some things were forced to go online, which meant that it needed a very quick turnaround. So what we've done at St. Mary's to ensure that students are feeling comfortable tackling an online semester, we've launched a program called Jumpstart. Now, Jumpstart is a 5-day crash course, essentially, on becoming an online student. So how to be an online student, how to engage with your professors and your peers, how to still make the most out of the classes that you're going to be taking. So this is 5 days. It includes, giving you the opportunity to meet with other incoming students that you'll be learning with and that you'll be taking classes with. You will be introduced to our virtual online learning environment, so getting used to the technology that you'll be using. You'll be able to attend mini lectures from St. Mary's professors and just kind of get comfortable with the idea of what it means to be an online student. We also have a summer writing workshop that is incorporated into this Jumpstart program as well, where you will learn to write academically. So you'll be practicing, thinking about how to properly write a variety of undergraduate assignments and papers. You'll get to have roundtable discussions with our faculty. So it's a really great initiative that you can get involved in. So if you would like to look into that a little bit more, I will put the link in the chat box below. So please take a look at that if you're interested in doing so.
Thank you, Lindsay. Just to go off of that, I'd like to direct the students' attention to the website in front of them. They should be able to see our St. Mary's website. We have been working to make sure that every update that we make in regards to changes for having a virtual semester or COVID-19, it is reflected on our website. So the second you go to SMU.ca, if you were to click here on visit our virtual university page for resources, there's a lot of information here that should answer a lot of your questions. So this might be something that you want to take a look at later. You can go to information for future students. And there's a really great FAQ there, which is highlighting a lot of the concerns that students have had. So if you think of a question later and you forgot to ask it while you're here with us, I recommend you check back on the website and they might have something there for you. But of course, you can always get in touch with us as well. So I think now, if we may, like as Lindsay said, our point today is to hear from Siobhan a little bit. So perhaps we will get back to you. I'm just going to change the presentation here.
Perfect. Now we good to start.
Okay. Wonderful. Siobhan, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe we'll think of some questions as we chat.
Hopefully, yeah. So hi everyone. Congratulations on deciding to choose St. Mary's University as your university. As someone who didn't know much about Canadian universities back when I started and just came to SMU based on like recruiters like Lindsay going to present at our school, I can't say enough how much of the right decision I made, honestly. I've had some good experiences at SMU and I would never take it back. So I started my undergrad at SMU in 2015 and graduated last year in May of 2019 with a Bachelor of Commerce degree and majoring in finance and minoring in political science. So the first thing that was great about SMU with that mentioned is that SMU has the flexibility where you can kind of craft your own degree where you can basically major in a major of in your degree, but then you can also minor in something completely different, and that flexibility is completely there. And I was really passionate about political science after taking an elective course, and then it kind of became a huge driving force of what I wanted to do in the future. So working towards that, first year when I started was a little different from now. It was I was there in person, so that will be different. But I can tell you for sure that the experiences that I've seen happen in Welcome Weeks, it's a continuing thing, and I definitely also took advantage of Welcome Week events and orientation things even after my first year, and it's still a lot of fun and welcoming. So in first year, I stayed in res, and then was really involved in residence, and then second year, kind of started taking on part-time jobs inside the campus, working with SMUSA, which is our Students Association. And then also at the end of the year in the summer, I took a work term at the Career Services Office. So then I got a little integrated into knowing about the internals of SMU. I became a pack leader also in my second year to welcome new students, and then continued that right until the end of my degree. And I also joined several societies throughout my university life, where one of them I became president of too. And the best part about SMU is that the options of societies are nearly endless in your mind, at least at first. So you can choose to almost do anything, and if you can't find anything, you can start a society of your own in a matter of a couple of days, and it takes about, I think, 15 people interested, which is super easy to find in a place that has so many different kinds of people from all over the world. So I honestly, a big factor of why I came to SMU is because of the city. I really enjoyed the idea that we're right by the ocean, and when I say we're right by the ocean, as mentioned before, the ocean is literally a 10-minute walk behind the campus in Point Pleasant Park, if you really want to just see the ocean. And so that was good. I also come from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I don't think I mentioned that before. And coming from such a busy city, Halifax is a real breath of fresh air, where it is in the city, which is something I enjoy. You have a lot of connections and a lot of opportunities, but it is not as crazy as some other big cities are, or maybe your home city is. So it's really a breath of fresh air. And the winter and summer, and we'll get to other things too, but as mentioned before, the winter here, I know people are a little scared of the Canadian winter, but there are times if you live in residence where you actually forget to leave the building, like leave and go outside. And that part, you have to kind of make sure to tell yourself to get out sometimes, just because it's healthy. But it is really convenient, and you barely notice most of the winter. And the summers can get as hot as back home, for me at least. If anyone here is from Bangladesh or South Asia, today is a particularly warm day, so was yesterday. And you enjoy these moments too if you're here. So it is really a mix of everything here. And yeah, excited to hear your questions if we want to start that, or I can talk more.
Sure. Well, I do have a question for you, Siobhan. So you, like, as you mentioned, you're from Bangladesh, and I think that a lot of the students that are joining us today are from particularly warmer climates where winter is not, really a season, or if it is, it's not like ours. But not so much about the weather. How did you find it was kind of adapting to not only just university, but you're also adapting to not knowing anybody, living away from home for the first time, being responsible for things that, you've never had to be responsible for before. So how was the adjustment for you, and did you have any challenges?
Sure. I remember my first night here was quite a big jump for me, because it was the first time I was ever away from my family like that. Whenever I traveled before, it was still with my family and all that. But the moment that I met my RA, I kind of really felt at home, and that's not an understatement because my RA was really welcoming and made this our floor in Loyola a very community experience where I made some of my best friends who are still friends with me in my first year living in residence. In fact, I'm still actually living with the same person who was my first roommate. We've actually become best friends, so that's really lucky. And the adjustment was it's a step up for sure for a lot of people, but it is really helpful. I would say what I did was really immerse myself in welcome week activities for the first week, and that really gets you in touch with the city, in touch with the school, and what what's going on. Some people who are there to support you, and these pack leaders will actually also end up becoming people you know until they graduate, unfortunately, and then they'll be your alumni support in the real world. So that part is really good. And yeah, I would say that the residents and community and the welcome week experiences really helped me integrate in here. I was at I also had a meal plan at Dockside, so the eating, uh, like some of the responsibilities were less in first year, but you know you kind of grow into it. But I think that um, this meal really sets you up well if you take advantage of the like services and support there is, and everyone should be fine.
Yeah, I think sometimes when students are coming from so far, um, it's it can be overwhelming, and that's normal. And so I know that a lot of students will ask Jenny and I, when we're, meeting with parents, meeting with students, meeting with families, should I live on residence? Should I live off campus? And I think for the first year, and you've mentioned this, residence really gives you that sense of community, that sense of belonging. It makes it easy to meet people. Plus, you have less responsibilities. You don't need to cook your food. You can just walk to the dockside. And it's normal to feel, it's normal to miss home. So sometimes students feel like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to feel uncomfortable? Absolutely. Those are the moments in life that sometimes you grow the most. And, sometimes even just on a trip by yourself, I know Jenny and I have had those moments where you're by yourself and you're in another country. So it's normal to feel uneasy. And so I think having that expectation of knowing that you're allowed to feel that way is always kind of a weight off the shoulders.
Yeah, in my first year, there were many times when I just felt overwhelmed, and that happens especially around like certain times of the year when you'll see, your Canadian friends meeting family or things like that, and then you don't have that opportunity. But I would say that it is something that definitely gradually declines, and you kind of make your own home here. I personally think I have two homes now. It's not just Tapa Bangladesh, it is definitely also here. So, and yeah, the learning experience is great for someone who lived with their parents and did high school and all of that. I'm very grateful that I got to move away and learn a whole new way of life. It was good. Yeah.
That's amazing, Siobhan. You mentioned a couple of things that I was hoping you could clarify. For example, one maybe I can address a little bit. You mentioned the RA. Just so everyone knows, your RA is your residence assistant, and that's someone that lives on your floor with you, and they're usually like a second or third year student, but it is a job for them, and so they live on campus with you, but they're the ones that kind of keep you in the loop, let you know what events are happening on campus. They'll arrange floor activities. And it's something I did in my second year of university and really loved it and got to know some pretty amazing people. But so it's a job you can do in your second year if you really like people. But also you mentioned being a pack leader. Do you mind explaining a little bit more about that? Because students might see pack leaders on campus, but they might not know all that goes into it and how rewarding it is and how fun it can be. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that? And I mean, and Julie, I want to clarify, obviously our orientation and welcome week is going to be a little different this September, but we will be having similar events once you do get to campus. So just to clarify, you won't be missing out on that. So yeah.
And yeah, pack leaders are essentially your orientation leaders who, because we're a school that has husky as a mascot, we say it's a pack of huskies. But these people are, we have a really interesting way of, training our pack leaders, and it's really thorough. So these people are well trained to not only ensure that you're enjoying your experience at SMU with all the events, but they're also there to support you with, in case you have any questions about anything in the short term, long term. And they're also, really well trained to just handle all the situations of the week. So, and the best part is that right in your first month, you'll already most likely have a goal seeing these pack leaders that next year you'd want to become a pack leader. And yeah, it's a lot of fun because they're there, and it's a lot of fun to be a pack leader. So if you're looking at things that you want to get involved in, then in your second year I would very strongly recommend becoming a pack leader. But yeah, that's coming up ahead. It is sad that your first welcome week will be more online, but I do know because I'm part of the young alumni committee, that the online orientation is really well thought out. So it will still be a good experience, and when you get here, it will be amazing too. So,
I think I'm a little frozen, but can you guys hear me okay?
yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
Do you think that after doing everything virtually for 4 or 5 months, we'd be pros by now, but we're still, we still forget to unmute ourselves?
Yeah, this is just what happens, and I'm just glad that my frozen picture isn't too awkward. At least I'm attentive in the image. Okay.
Yes.
So, Siobhan, you've been involved in so much during your undergraduate degree, and I was really impressed in all the things you got involved in. Did you have a favorite, like a favorite society or a favorite course, or is there anything that you would
Yeah.
really recommend students to get involved in?
Sure, I'll say a couple actually. I really can't pick one here, but I'll keep it quick so that it's not too detailed. But personally, SMU has a lot of opportunities, I would say, where you can become like TAs, you can do research, you can do your honors, and like, well, it's really about the experience you make at SMU that makes your degree really valuable. But what I really liked doing out in my 4 years was kind of getting involved in a lot of society related things, or like engagement based things. So one of the first things that I got involved in was the Speak Up Society, and they're a society that is specifically designed for international student engagement. So they organize events for international students but also to organize mixers so that you make friends from Canada. And they also are the society that's kind of recently representing international student issues around campus with campaigns and things. So they're there to listen. So that was one of the things that I started with and became the president of, and it was a great experience. I met a lot of friends from all over the world who are really valuable friends. Another really cool experience was joining the Habitat for Humanity Society, where basically you do some local volunteering and builds throughout the year, but then in your winter break, which is around February, you get to hop on a bus with about 20 to 25 other students and go all the way down to the southern east coast part of America, somewhere one of those states, and then help build homes for people. And it's the greatest experience because you get to, if it's your first time in North America, you get to see all of the East Coast. You get to stop in all the states. There's a stop designated for New York City, and you get to visit New York for about half a day or a full day. And then you get to stay for 7 or 8 days in a state and just build houses, go see local experiences and things. And it really changed my perspective of involvement, because I've understood that involvement can be valuable, it can be helpful to others, and that's the kind of values that SMU kind of wants to instill in you, and that is kind of what being a centenarian is about. So that was really one of my favorite ones. I did it twice actually. I went to Texas and Florida. And I wouldn't do it again because 50-hour bus rides are pretty hectic. But it is a great experience to have for sure. So those would be my favorites.
That's awesome. I always tell students about the Habitat for Humanity Society also because sometimes students want to travel, but they feel like, well, I already traveled to Canada for my degree, so should I do a study abroad or should I do an exchange experience? And I say, you know, there are a few societies and clubs that you can join and give you that same experience without actually going somewhere and studying for a longer period of time. So I think the Habitat for Humanity Society is amazing. And like you said, you're helping. So you feel good at the end of it because you're like, wow, I gave my time. I got to have this great experience and I've helped to build homes for others in need.
Yeah. Yeah, and as an international student myself, former, I found it a little difficult to arrange study abroad for myself, but that's not the case with everyone. I've also seen international students do it, and it's a great experience. But I definitely use Habitat for Humanity and another society called Model UN Society to fill my international travel experiences as being part of the school experience. So Model UN is also similar, where you go to New York for a conference, and SMU is very successful in that. So if you become part of that team, that's an accolade, is also great to have it in the belt. But yeah, it is a really good experience. Alternatively, if you can't do study abroad.
That's fantastic. Hi. That's fantastic advice, Siobhan, because, in our job, obviously, Lindsay and I travel around and speak to students and try to encourage students to consider getting involved in all these different aspects. But everybody's schedule is a bit different. And you mentioned earlier that university is flexible, which is a nice thing, but we all have different schedules. So I worked in a semester abroad, but just the way that I scheduled my classes, I didn't have time to do Model UN. Now, the lesson here, I think, is to go and speak to your advisor really early on, because they can help you structure your courses so you can, maximize your time and fit in as much as you can. But everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different. I will mention, maybe Lindsay can send the link, but our academic advisors are open to meeting with students now one-on-one. They do virtual meetings. So if you're a student that's going to take classes in September or January, I recommend sending them a message and checking in with them, because as much as we help students with registering for courses, now they're the ones that really know the fine details of your program. So they're the ones that'll be able to say, okay, you want to do Model UN and a semester abroad, and you want to have a job on campus and all this. Okay, let's work around your schedule and see what we can do. That's great.
Absolutely.
That since I left, even there are more advisors on SMU than ever. So scheduling and all of that is great too right now. So,
it's nice to see those improvements, isn't it? So I graduated from university in 2008, I think. And so since then, campus has really shifted, and everywhere I look, there's another little nook and cranny for someone to cozy up and study on campus, and it's really fun just to see the improvements. And so where your money's going usually to see things that you're going to benefit from. So the advisors, you're right, and in business too, we've got quite a bit more support now in the last couple of years. So it's really great for students. Lindsay, are there any questions that have come in for Siobhan?
So
doing such a great job chatting.
Yeah, do have a question from a student asking if you took advantage or if you did co-op, because they're thinking of doing co-op.
Yeah. So mine was a special case. I was a co-op student, and I did one term of co-op, but then I had to quit the program because I wanted to finish within a certain time, and I also got a full-time job offer during my 4th year of work on campus. So, which was for me like a very valuable personal experience because of the things that I want to do in the future. So I worked at the student government, SNISA, as one of their executives in my 4th year, and that's a May to April job, and it's like full-time hours. So I just couldn't schedule in another co-op term in the middle of it, and just because I was so close to finishing, I didn't want to extend it by a semester either. But I found co-op to be really valuable while I was in it, because it's a program where you have an advisor, sort of person who's there to help you, with the perfect your I guess job searching and interviewing skills, as well as there to help you find these jobs that you want to kind of gain experience in before you graduate. And also, just like on a personal level, I found that the co-op jobs that are available are very valuable and different from regular jobs that are available while you're a student. So I did miss out on the last bit of co-op, but the first bit of co-op for me was a really good experience. And my first work time was absolutely a great experience for me that increased my confidence to do, I guess, work that I'm doing now, or yeah. Um, I think you have to finish about 2 years of university or 1.5 years of university before you apply for co-op. So it is something to like speak to your advisor now, I guess, to kind of schedule in when you want to do your terms and how to approach it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like either way, you still got some great experience, and that's the point of co-op. So I should have mentioned co-op is paid work experience throughout your degree. So when you graduate, not only are you receiving your degree, but you're also receiving experience in your field. So for you, Siobhan, I mean, to have that full-time job offer, whether it's through co-op or through another route, that's what we encourage, and that's what we hope to instill in our students, is to be able to find and highlight those experiences and opportunities that will be the best fit for you. So, even though you didn't get to finish co-op, you still had the same end result, which was experience and work experience and paid, because as a student, of course, we all know, making a little bit of extra money is also key.
For sure. Yeah. No, I don't regret all the experiences that I had, co-op or not. It was really helpful for me.
Maybe, Siobhan, you could tell us a little bit about the next steps you took. So you mentioned that you worked with Career Services, which is fantastic. So I'm sure you know what they offer inside and out. But a lot of our students that come to Canada, one of the reasons they're coming is because they know that they can work during their degree, but they can also remain in the country usually and work afterwards for up to 3 years, and possibly apply for permanent residency afterwards. So that's really attractive for students. And is there anything you can share about your experience taking those steps? And just because a lot of students will also ask, will I find a job? Will I be hired? Can I find work? So do you have any advice on that, or do you want to walk us through kind of what your experience was?
So I use career services since my first semester in university, because I never had before coming to university, I just tutored students and did some volunteer work. So I never really had a resume or anything like that to begin with, and I felt like I was kind of behind really compared to students here, because they already kind of worked and had like a way of uh, the way of how the job application process works. So I went to career services almost in my 2nd month here, just to kind of build a resume, and they guide you through it from scratch. What kind of resume you want and what kind of experiences you want to put in based on what you want out of your resume. So I would say that that resume workshop that they host is pretty crucial for students right in their first semester. Even if you're not looking to work right away, it is very helpful to have a resume, because you never know what kind of opportunities are going to come up, and then last minute you're not going to have the resume that you want to share. So that was really good. Another thing, which was when I started working, I worked at the co-curricular records office. So co-curricular record is a very interesting idea that I found, where all the experiences of volunteering, basically non-paid experiences that you have, you can kind of put into one informal transcript of sort, but it's not informal at all because it's verified, and it is an official university document signed by university administration. So you can kind of document all your involvement that are not jobs, and then kind of explain it, kind of sketch it out there. And it also mentions how many hours you volunteered in those things. So it's a really good additional document to have along with your resume. And that's something that some students really build on throughout their 4 years, kind of to, fill up their CCR, which is what the short form of it is. So working in that office, I realized that there was a lot of potential to it, because I used to, along with my supervisor, meet students and suggest these opportunities to them. And then at the end of the summer, they would come and tell us that they had a great experience and they're continuing to work there, or know what they kind of want to do with the rest of their degree. And yeah, so other than that, they also have career counseling, which I personally took advantage of, because around the time when you have to pick your major, it's a really tough choice to make. In commerce, I found that, accounting, finance, all these things kind of led to, in my head before I went there, the same pathway. But then when you go there, you kind of clear those things out, and those career counselors really have one-on-one great sessions with you, which are completely confidential too. So another great service to take advantage of. And also now they have alumni, a thing called, I think, 10,000 Coffees, which is really good for meeting alumni and kind of discussing what you want to do with your future, and maybe even figuring out employment opportunities through that. When I graduated, I took advantage of that alumni connection, and since then I've taken 2 jobs, and both of them were through connections that I made through alumni, as well as the resume that I made, I think updated in my 4th year through career services. So those things, career services, I would say, is definitely the top 3 services that you should take advantage of while you're at SMU. Yeah.
That is fantastic advice, and especially the fact that you started working with them so early on, because in your opinions on what you want to do and what you want to be are going to shift over the 4 years. So it's great to connect with them early on to kind of start navigating that as soon as you can. And they like that. They welcome students coming in early in their program. So that's fantastic advice for everyone listening today.
Excellent. And the people at career services that are still there for you are the nicest people. It's a really easy experience to kind of go in there and kind of get used to the people and get what you want out of it. It's really, it feels nerve-wracking to kind of build your first resume in your first semester, but it was much easier than I expected. So definitely take advantage of that.
Within the same kind of theme, we do have a question from another student who's from Bangladesh, and they're asking, when it comes to working, how does that affect your study time during the semesters?
Sure. So off-campus work is definitely a good experience, but in my just from personal experience, I worked for the first 2 years. In my first year, I worked very little. I was really involved just in residence and things like that. But in my 2nd and 3rd year, I solely just worked on campus, and a lot of on-campus jobs are very well built to give you that university connection, but also allows you that time to you're on campus. So when you're done work, or when you have a free moment, you can kind of also just like start doing your assignment or something. I worked at the information desk in the student building, and when you're helping students, you're working, and then when you're not working, you can just kind of sit down and do your assignment or things like that. So it's really a good way of balancing out if you're working on campus. But other than that, it's all about time management. Obviously, there's a limit to how much you can work off campus. So that kind of helps you schedule that in, and also your studies together, I would say. But yeah, it's just, you gotta, I would say, focus on the studies first, and the work will, happen. Yeah.
Great advice.
I had a question here, and that's off my mind. I just wanted to remind students we have about 10 minutes left or so, so feel free to send in your questions. This is your chance to chat with us. But that being said, I think, Lindsay will also make sure that she leaves both my email, so jenny.calder@sme.ca, and Lindsay's email in case you want to get in touch with us with follow-up questions. But maybe this is a good time to also remind you of the peer coaching program that we have has been developed for this incoming year. Hopefully you have received an email about this program in recent weeks. I know something was sent out. If not, let us know. We'll be happy to connect you with the organizers of the program. I was speaking with them just a couple of days ago, and I'll bring up here, yeah. And I'm really excited. I mean, at St. Mary's, you've probably heard through Siobhan's examples that there's lots of ways to connect with current students, make new friends. But of course, the fact that we're going to be moving into a remote and virtual semester, that's going to be a little bit of a different experience. But we really want you to still get that opportunity to connect with people and realize that you are a part of the St. Mary's University community this year. So the peer coaching program is one of the many peer mentor programs on campus, but it's connecting you with a student who probably has some similar interests, or at least in a similar program, and they're there to connect with you as early as today to chat with you, answer questions, give their experience, and just to be a face that you know on campus. So I really recommend that you let us know if you want to get involved in that. I know there's a good group, a few hundred students have already taken advantage of it. So let us know. We hired a bunch of students to be part of the program, and we'd love to connect you with other students who are on campus. And I'm sure when you get here, Siobhan will want to come by and say hi to you as well.
I feel pretty, honestly, the SMU experience doesn't stop when you graduate. I felt more connected at the end of my, university experience than I did at the start. And I got involved with the Alumni Association, or Young Alumni Association, I should say. And, I'm always happy to do things like speaking today and things like that. So it's a connection you'll have because all the faces that you see, including the recruiters that you're seeing today, are just recurring faces because it's all in one city block, and it's a great experience. In other universities, you never see your university president, or you never get to speak to them. But Dr. Rob will become your best friend by the end of, in a couple of years. So yeah, definitely.
I saw one quick question pop up that I think I can address, and then I think there's another one there for you, Siobhan. There's one question: what's the difference between peer coaching and peer mentorship programs? So in some of our faculties, we've had long-lasting peer mentorship programs, like in our Bachelor of Science. It's been customary to connect you with another science student for a few years now. So there are other opportunities on campus, and people will reach out to you to be a part of that. But the peer coaching is the new program that's it's being developed in practice now, and it's designed a little bit more around the concept of this remote semester. So knowing that students are being faced with some different maybe roadblocks and experiences, and so it was created with that in mind. So they're a bit different, but you are welcome to take part in all of them. The International Center also has a mentorship and pen pal system as well. So if you really want to speak specifically to an international student who's really closely connected to the International Center with Isaac and Shanshan and Michaela, then that's an option too. So just to keep you in a loop and let you know that there's lots of ways to make friends before you even step on campus. And there's, Lindsay, there's another question here, right, for Siobhan? So
there is, yeah. So Siobhan is wondering, do you suggest new students join societies in the first term, or focus on your studies and getting used to things and then start getting involved in societies?
So there's going to be a full day called the Society Fair during Welcome Weeks, and I'm sure there will be an online version of it this year too. And I would say absolutely yes. From the first day, we should get as involved as you're comfortable with, because I think the getting used to Canada, getting used to school, getting used to your studies even is, a big part of that is getting used to this new community and getting used. If you're if you're part of a society, you have those people that you can identify with, and that really helps in that transition. And you know, society work is always very aware of the fact that we are students, you are students and you have classes, so it's not going to overbear on that. So, you can obviously figure out your schedule, see which societies work best for you, both in preference and also timing, and then get involved, I would say 100%.
And you're right, Siobhan, there will be a virtual opportunity to get involved in societies before coming to campus. So that's going to be part of the welcome weeks that have already, some events have already started. So students, make sure you get involved in that. There's going to be online trivia, scavenger hunts, even concerts, open mic. They're going to have some online yoga, and there's a lot happening to keep you engaged, even virtually. So you're right with that.
I think you're a great example of someone who really kind of encompasses the whole experience. So I think one thing that can sometimes be a misconception is that university is only about studying and academics. And while yes, that's the point of being there, is to study and to learn and to get a job, but there's so much added value from things that come outside of academics. And that is something that's reflected when you go to apply for a job. So employers are looking for students like Siobhan, who has been involved. You have a really great, well-rounded experience. You've been involved in societies, you've traveled to, with Habitat for Humanity, you've done co-op, you've also been part of the student government. So you have a lot of really great experiences that aren't just sitting in the classroom and taking notes. And I think that specifically from an international standpoint, a lot of students think that they're not going to do anything other than come to St. Mary's and study. So I think having your experience of being very well-rounded and being able to manage, you can do well in your classes, you can study, but you can also have fun and join societies. And like you said, it's about time management.
Yeah, and I would say that even till now and for the 4 years that I was there, international students are the driving force of engagement at SMU. So it's really easy to become a part of these things and get really involved because your degree is going to be there and everyone has a degree, but the experiences that you make are really going to make, your life outside different and special.
So true. And I think this year we have a Canadian student as the SMUSA president. But I think for at least 4 years before that, maybe even 5, it was an international student from, we had international students from Bangladesh, from Kuwait, from Honduras, leading the engagement of students. So you're very correct in saying that.
And for the Bangladeshi people out there, we have representation in student government from Bangladesh almost every year. So it's really, and also from everywhere actually, or I'm just speaking because I'm Bangladeshi, but yeah, it's international students really make up a large part of the involvement thing. So definitely don't hesitate. Yeah.
Did you mention Bangladeshi night?
Oh, Bangladeshi night is, whether you're Bangladeshi or not, Bangladeshi night is one of the most fun events at SMU, and everyone will tell you that. The unfortunate part is that there's limited seating, but it's going to be a great night of just good, the closest to home style food, and also cultural performances and everything. The whole university administration, there's a great time of fun, but there's also nights for, nowadays, at least since I started, for almost every kind of night that you can possibly think of, as well as an overall international night, which is to celebrate all of the international bodies. So those are great. things to kind of keep you going.
Mm-hmm. It's actually funny. What the last time I was in Bangladesh right before COVID started, and I bought a salwar kameez just for international night and Bangladeshi night. So now they have to happen this year, or else I'm just gonna have to wear my salwar kameez around my house, which I have no problem doing.
I put mine in the wash and shrunk it, so I need a new one.
You need a new one, Jenny.
There's a question here about some academics, so maybe we can address this one. Just can we change our courses in case we don't find ourselves compatible with our course? So yes, keep in mind, you know, if you are, always dry clean it. I should have. Sorry, there was a student that spoke up and said I should have dry cleaned it. I know, my trying to be helpful. She was visiting. I told her to leave it alone, but she didn't listen. So she felt very badly.
That's moms. They never listen. They just do their own thing.
So yeah, so if you are looking, you're not really sure what your course, I mean, definitely take some time to select the courses that you're registering for. But if you need to shift your program, so for example, if you're in business and you decide you want to go into liberal arts, then yes, of course, as long as you're still doing well, you can change your courses, you change your program. If you're in finance and you decide you want to go into marketing, then yes, you can make those shifts. But once you're actually registered for the individual course, there's a certain date in which you can't withdraw from that exact course. So there's a difference between changing programs and changing the courses you're in. So some students will register for the courses, take about a week of them, and make sure they're aware of the final add or drop dates, and the final dates that you can make any changes to your schedule. And you know, in some cases, students might get into a course and realize, no, this wasn't the right class for me, and change it before that date, and that's okay. But you wouldn't want to wait until just before the exam and withdraw from the course, because then you're still going to be charged for that class, and then you still have a mark on your transcript. So there's just a difference between changing courses and changing your program. I hope that makes sense.
And if you need more clarification on anything, feel free to send Jenny or myself an email, and we can discuss with your individual, you know, needs and interests.
All right. Well, I don't see any new questions popping up here. Maybe just lost Siobhan for a second. You lost Siobhan. Thank you guys for taking part and joining us today. We had a really great group here, a good large group that joined in. We will be having another session tomorrow at 4 p.m., which may not work well for all of our students coming in from Bangladesh and the Middle East and everything. But we will be having other sessions coming up, so keep in touch with us. I think Lindsay maybe sent our emails out. And fantastic. I did want to mention before we go, just as a reminder, we kind of alluded to this earlier, but we know the information is changing very quickly every day about the policies around international students coming in to study in Canada. So just as a reminder, not only to check our website, so the SMU.ca, but also to make sure you pop by and check out the Canadian government website, the IRCC, that's Immigration Refugee
Citizenship Canada.
Thank you, Lindsay. So they are regularly updating their study permit policy. So there are changes made. Currently, if you have a visa that was given to you prior to March 18th, then technically students are allowed to come into the country to live here during their online classes. However, some students have been requesting a letter to explain that, just so when they come to the border, they have a little bit more information so that everybody is clear and understands that there's a good reason for you to be there. Perhaps you don't have strong internet at home, and it's necessary for you to be in Canada. So if you have questions around that, I'd really recommend that you get in touch with us and we'll connect you with the International Center. So EZAC and Shan can guide you on the best way to address any questions that you have around your study permit and coming into Canada. But we know that a lot of students will be joining us in January, and we look forward to welcoming you here then.
Yes.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed your time with Siobhan. I certainly did. I'm sure we'll be inviting him back for another session in the near future. So thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon. All right.
Take care.